The desert is not just a place of trial, but also of revelation. Thomas Merton. Picture yourself walking through a vast desert. The scorching sun beats down on your head, hot sand beneath your feet. Each step is a challenge, every breath a struggle. This desert isn't a physical place, but a powerful metaphor for the inner journeys we all face in our lives. Welcome to an exploration of the personal desert, a journey we all inevitably traverse. Today we'll dive deep into this concept, exploring how great philosophers and thinkers have approached this universal journey. We'll discover why complaining only prolongs our time in the desert, and how we can transform this seemingly barren experience into an opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. Prepare for a transformative journey through the sands of time and wisdom. You'll discover how notable figures like Tolstoy faced their own deserts and emerged transformed. And who knows, by the end of this exploration, you might see your own desert not as an obstacle but as a path to self-knowledge and fulfillment. The concept of the personal desert is as old as humanity itself. Since the dawn of civilization, the desert has been a powerful symbol of trial, purification, and transformation. But what exactly is this personal desert we speak of? The personal desert is a state of emotional and spiritual aridity, a period in our life when we feel lost, disoriented, and disconnected from our purpose. It's a time of deep questioning, where our beliefs are challenged and our values are put to the test. Like the physical desert, this internal state can seem endless, hostile, and devoid of life. Philosophers and thinkers throughout history have recognized the importance of these periods of trial. The existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre spoke about the concept of existential nausea, a feeling of disorientation and alienation that many experience at some point in their lives. This state, Sartre argued, is actually a gateway to authenticity and true freedom. Friedrich Nietzsche, in turn, saw suffering and adversity as essential elements for personal growth. His famous phrase, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger," perfectly encapsulates the idea that our personal deserts, as difficult as they may be, have the potential to make us stronger and wiser. But why do we enter this desert? Often, the personal desert is triggered by life events that shake our foundations: the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a career change, or a health crisis. Other times it arises more subtly, as a growing feeling of dissatisfaction or emptiness, even when everything seems fine on the surface. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung called these periods the dark night of the soul, a term he borrowed from the Christian mystical tradition. Jung saw these moments as crucial for the process of individuation, the path to becoming a complete and integrated human being. It's important to note that the personal desert is not a uniform experience. Each person experiences it uniquely, colored by their own experiences, beliefs, and personality. For some, it may manifest as a sense of existential boredom. For others, it may be an acute crisis of identity or purpose. Regardless of how it manifests, the personal desert is a deeply human and universal experience. It's a testament to our capacity to question, to seek meaning, and to grow through adversity. As we move forward in our exploration, we'll see how great minds have dealt with their own deserts and how we can learn from their experiences. But first, a question for reflection. Can you identify a period in your life that could be described as a personal desert? How did this experience affect you? When we find ourselves in the midst of the personal desert, our first reaction is often to complain. We complain about the injustice of the situation, the difficulty of the path, the aridity of the landscape. But what if I told you that this reaction, as natural as it may be, is actually a trap that prolongs our stay in the desert? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." This fundamental idea of Stoic philosophy offers us a powerful perspective on how our attitude can shape our experience in the personal desert. When we complain, we're essentially resisting the reality of our situation. We're spending precious energy wishing things were different, instead of accepting what is and working from there. It's like trying to swim against the current, instead of using that same energy to find a way to navigate the waters. Psychologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, in his seminal book, Man's Search for Meaning, argued that the ability to find meaning in suffering is fundamental to survival and growth. Frankl observed that even in the most terrible conditions of the concentration camps, those who managed to maintain a sense of purpose and meaning had a better chance of survival. Complaining, on the other hand, keeps us stuck in a cycle of negativity. It blinds us to the opportunities for growth and learning that the desert offers. As the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely observed, in each adversity, there is an opportunity for a miracle. But why is it so easy to fall into the trap of complaining? The answer may lie in our neurobiology. Neuroscientist Rick Hansen explains that our brains have a negative bias, a tendency to focus on and remember negative experiences more easily than positive ones. This bias, which evolved as a survival mechanism, can make us hypersensitive to the difficulties of the personal desert. However, just as we can train our muscles, we can also train our brains to respond differently. The practice of gratitude, for example, has been shown in studies to increase well-being and resilience. The Roman philosopher Cicero wasn't wrong when he said, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others." Moreover, constant complaining can have a detrimental effect on our social relationships. Contemporary philosopher Alain de Botton argues that the ability to endure difficulties with grace is an important social virtue. When we complain excessively, we may push away those who could offer us support during our times in the desert. So, how can we avoid the trap of complaining? The first step is awareness. Recognizing when we're complaining is the beginning of change. Next, we can practice reinterpreting our circumstances. As the Greek philosopher Epictetus suggested, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. As we move forward, we'll explore how we can not only avoid the trap of complaining, but also actively transform our experience in the desert. But first, reflect. How has complaining affected your personal journey? Can you identify moments when complaining prolonged your time in a personal desert? Imagine for a moment that your personal desert is not a place of desolation, but a laboratory of transformation. What if, hidden in the seemingly barren dunes, was the potential for extraordinary growth? This is the perspective that many great thinkers and philosophers have adopted throughout history. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, known for his philosophy of amor fati, love of fate, saw periods of difficulty as crucial for personal development. He argued that it is precisely in the moments of greatest challenge that we have the opportunity to become who we really are. "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star," he wrote. This idea of transformation through adversity is not unique to Western philosophy. In the Buddhist tradition, the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering, is seen not as something to be avoided at all costs, but as an integral part of the human experience that can lead to enlightenment when approached with wisdom. The hidden power of the personal desert lies in its ability to strip us of our illusions and force us to confront our true nature. As philosopher and psychoanalyst Erich Fromm observed, man can find meaning in life, short and perilous as it is, only through devoting himself to society. Often it is in the desert that we discover our true vocation and purpose. Consider the case of the Russian writer Leo Tolstoy. Despite his literary success, Tolstoy experienced a profound existential crisis in his 50s. This period of personal desert led him to a deep spiritual transformation, which influenced not only his later writing, but also his social and philosophical activism. The personal desert also has the power to teach us resilience. Psychologist Angela Duckworth, in her work on grit, argues that the ability to persevere in the face of adversity is a stronger predictor of success than innate talent. The desert, with its seemingly endless challenges, is the perfect training ground for developing this quality. Furthermore, the personal desert offers us the opportunity to practice what philosopher and psychologist William James called the art of accepting the limits of the possible. By confronting us with our limitations, the desert teaches us humility and helps us develop a more realistic and compassionate understanding of ourselves and others. The power of the desert also lies in its ability to connect us with our own interiority. In the absence of everyday distractions, we are forced to look inward. As the Christian mystic St. John of the Cross wrote about the dark night of the soul, "O night that guided me, O night more lovely than the dawn, but perhaps the deepest power of the personal desert is its ability to teach us to live in the present. The Roman philosopher Seneca warned against the tendency to live in the future or the past. Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. In the desert, where every step is a challenge, we learn the value of being fully present. As we continue our journey, we'll explore how we can actively harness this hidden power of the desert. But for now, consider, what unrealized potential might be hidden in your own personal desert? How could you begin to see your challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth? Throughout history, many of humanity's brightest and most influential minds have faced their own personal deserts. These experiences not only shaped their thinking, but often led to profound insights that continue to resonate with us today. Let's explore how some of these great thinkers navigated their deserts and what we can learn from their journeys. Let's start with Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. Before his enlightenment, Siddhartha went through an intense period of asceticism and self-denial, a true spiritual desert. It was only when he abandoned extremes and found the middle way that he achieved enlightenment. His journey teaches us that sometimes wisdom lies in balance, not in extremes. The Greek philosopher Socrates faced his desert in the form of an unjust trial and a death sentence. However, even in the face of death, he maintained his integrity and continued to question and seek truth. As recorded by Plato in The Apology, Socrates declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." His example reminds us that value lies in the pursuit of truth, not necessarily in its attainment. Moving forward a few centuries, we find St. Augustine, whose work Confessions is a powerful account of his journey through the desert of doubt and despair to faith. Augustine shows us that the desert can be a place of profound personal and spiritual transformation. In the modern era, few thinkers have delved as deeply into their personal desert as Friedrich Nietzsche. Struggling with chronic illnesses and social isolation, Nietzsche developed a philosophy that celebrated life in all its forms, including suffering. His idea of the eternal return, the notion that we should live as if we were to relive our lives infinitely, is a powerful call to fully embrace our existence, deserts included. Another philosopher who grappled with the concept of personal desert was Albert Camus. His philosophy of absurdism was born out of his confrontation with the seeming meaninglessness of existence. Camus argued that in the face of an indifferent universe, we must create our own meaning. His famous work, The Myth of Sisyphus, explores the idea of finding purpose in the face of absurdity, much like finding an oasis in the desert. Returning to Leo Tolstoy mentioned earlier, his personal desert led him to a profound spiritual crisis in his 50s. This crisis, described in his work A Confession, led him to reject much of his earlier life and embrace a radical form of Christianity based on Jesus' teachings on nonviolence and simplicity. Tolstoy's journey shows us how the desert can lead to a complete reevaluation of our lives and values. Psychiatrist and philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, transformed his unimaginable desert in the Nazi concentration camps into a powerful philosophy of life. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, argues that we can find meaning even in the most terrible circumstances, an idea he lived firsthand. These thinkers, among many others, show us that the personal desert is not only a universal experience, but also fertile ground for growth and transformation. They teach us that it is possible not only to survive the desert, but to emerge from it with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. As we reflect on these stories, a question arises. How can we apply the lessons of these great thinkers to our own journeys through the desert? What strategies can we adopt to not just survive, but thrive in our moments of trial? After exploring the nature of the personal desert and observing how great minds dealt with their own challenges, it's time to turn to practical strategies we can use to navigate our own deserts. These are not quick fixes, but deep practices rooted in philosophical and psychological wisdom. Let's begin with the idea of embracing uncertainty. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard argued that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Instead of fighting against the uncertainty of the desert, we can learn to embrace it as a sign of infinite possibilities. Practice seeing uncertainty not as a threat, but as an invitation to grow and explore. The practice of mindfulness, rooted in Eastern and Western philosophical traditions, can be a powerful tool in the desert. As philosopher and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, being fully present in the moment can help us find peace even in difficult circumstances. Engaging in Socratic dialogue is another valuable strategy. Socrates believed that true knowledge comes from constant questioning. Practice asking yourself deep questions. What can I learn from this situation? What beliefs of mine are being challenged here? How is this experience transforming me? Consider adopting the concept of amor fati. This Stoic concept, popularized by Nietzsche, means love of fate. It's about accepting and even embracing everything that happens in our lives, including suffering. Practice saying yes to your experience, no matter how difficult it may seem. The search for meaning is crucial. Viktor Frankl argued that finding meaning in our experiences is essential for psychological survival. Ask yourself, what greater purpose might this desert experience be serving? How can I use this experience to grow or help others? Practicing gratitude can be transformative. Epictetus taught that happiness begins with gratitude for what we have. Even in the desert, there are things we can be grateful for. Consider keeping a gratitude journal, reflecting on things you're grateful for every day. Cultivating virtues is another powerful strategy. Aristotle believed that happiness comes from practicing virtues. In the desert, we can focus on cultivating virtues such as courage, patience, perseverance, and compassion. Reflect on what virtue each situation is calling you to develop. Engaging in deep self-reflection is particularly relevant in the desert. The Delphic maxim, "Know thyself," takes on new importance. Use this time to explore your values, beliefs, and deepest motivations. Tools such as reflective writing or meditation can be useful in this process. The practice of detachment, a central concept in Buddhism, can be a powerful tool in the desert. Practice letting go of rigid expectations and attachments to specific outcomes. As the Buddha taught, suffering often comes from attachment. Seeking connection is fundamental. Martin Buber spoke about the importance of the I-thou relationship, authentic and deep relationships. Even in the desert, we can seek meaningful connections with others or with something greater than ourselves. Embracing the absurd, as proposed by Albert Camus, can be liberating. Camus argued that in the face of the absurdity of existence, our task is to find meaning and joy anyway. Practice finding moments of joy or beauty in your desert, no matter how absurd it may seem. Finally, cultivating resilience is essential. Contemporary philosopher Martha Nussbaum talks about the importance of emotional resilience. Practice seeing challenges as opportunities to develop inner strength. Remember, navigating the desert is a process, not an event. These strategies are not to be mastered at once, but to be practiced and refined over time. As you incorporate them into your life, you may discover that the desert, far from being just a place of trial, becomes a training ground for personal growth and transformation. Now, a question for reflection. Which of these strategies resonates most with you right now? How could you begin to incorporate it into your daily life, especially when facing challenges? Remember, every step you take in the desert is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. We've reached the crucial point of our journey, the transformation of the desert into an oasis. This is not an external metamorphosis, but a profound internal change in how we perceive and interact with our challenging environment. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The first step in this transformation is acceptance. Psychologist Carl Rogers argued that the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Accepting the desert doesn't mean resigning yourself to it, but recognizing it as part of our journey. It's from this acceptance that we can begin to work with the desert rather than against it. Once we accept where we are, we can begin to change our perspective. The Roman philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." We can begin to see the desert not as a place of scarcity, but as a place of untapped potential. Each challenge becomes an opportunity for growth, each obstacle a chance to develop strength and resilience. The next step is to find meaning in our experience. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, argued that human beings can endure almost any how if they have a why. What is your why in the desert? What greater purpose might this experience be serving in your life? As we find meaning, we can begin to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic, said, "If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough." Gratitude has the power to transform our perception, allowing us to see abundance even amid the apparent scarcity of the desert. A crucial aspect of transforming the desert into an oasis is the cultivation of compassion, both for ourselves and for others. The Dalai Lama teaches that love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. Self-compassion allows us to be gentle with ourselves during difficult times, while compassion for others connects us with the shared humanity of our experience. Another important element is the practice of mindfulness, or present moment awareness. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who popularized mindfulness in the West, defines it as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. This practice allows us to be fully present in our experience, without getting lost in ruminations about the past or anxieties about the future. Creativity also plays a vital role in transforming the desert. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that we should live our lives as works of art. How can we creatively approach the challenges we face? How can we use our desert experience as raw material to create something beautiful and meaningful? Finally, remember that transforming the desert into an oasis is not a final destination, but an ongoing process. As the philosopher Heraclitus observed, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." Each moment in the desert is a new opportunity for growth and transformation. As we conclude our exploration, consider, how can you begin to transform your own desert into an oasis of growth and self-discovery? What small steps can you take today to initiate this transformation? Remember, the personal desert, challenging as it may be, carries within it the seeds of profound transformation. Like the lotus that blooms in the mud, our most significant growth often emerges from our most difficult moments. The desert is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new one. A journey of self-discovery, growth, and ultimately, of flourishing. May you find the strength to embrace your desert, the wisdom to learn from it, and the courage to transform it into your own personal oasis. For, as the poet Rumi beautifully expressed, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."